Hello, welcome to this coaching program, this new coaching program on building a successful marriage. In my introductory video, I introduced myself, so I'm not going to introduce myself again, but my name is just Mark Darko. And I mentioned that marriage is not for everyone. Yes, marriage is not for everyone. I know you may be shocked by this statement because social constructs and societal norms push everyone into marriage. That's why we have a lot of trouble in marriage. Marriage is not for everyone. And in this video, I'm going to explain the categories of people who should not get married. And if you find yourself in that category and you're already married, then you need serious counseling. If you find yourself in any of these categories and you're contemplating marriage, I'll say stop and seek serious counseling before you get married. In the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 12, the apostles asked Jesus Christ whether it was right for a man to divorce his wife. And Jesus told them, what do your scriptures say? And they said Moses permitted us to write a divorce certificate and give it to the woman and let her go. And Jesus said, no, it's because of the hardness of your heart, your stiff-neckedness. That's why Moses permitted you. It was a permission because you were going to divorce anyway. You are stiff-necked. You are not going to obey the law of God anyway. That's why Moses permitted you to divorce your wives. But he told them that in the beginning, that was not the purpose of God. That was not the original intention of God. God created a male and female, and that the two will come together and they'll become one flesh. And Jesus said, what God has put together, let no man put asunder, or let no man separate. All right. So they said, oh, if that's the case, and we have to get stuck with a woman, stuck with a man for all your life, then it's not worth it. Then it's good that we don't get married. And then Jesus Christ said a very important thing. He said, what you're saying is it's okay for a man not to get married, but not everyone can accept what you're saying. And he went on to say that there are three types of people. Jesus Christ used the word eunuch. Eunuch to describe celibacy. People who will not get married. There are three types of people who won't get married. One, those who are born eunuchs. That means that they are born with a certain kind of disposition that they will not want to get married. Either they have some disability or they have some problem with their physiognomy or mental problem or anything, or just their own personal disposition that will not allow them to get married. That is by birth. And he mentioned the second group as people who make themselves eunuchs. They stay celibate because of the work of God. This category applies to, or we find people like pastors, priests, monks, nuns, and all those people who do not want to get married because of ministry. And the third category of eunuchs, Jesus Christ says, are those who have been made eunuchs by other people. That means that they've been castrated. If you are castrated or you've been rendered, you've been incapacitated by people, by other human beings, then of course you cannot get married. Right. So these are the three categories of people who should not get married at all. And yet, in our society, we have the societal norms and culture and social constructs that push everyone into marriage. Everyone must get married. The moment you arrive at a certain age, they keep asking you, when are you going to get married? Why are you still not married? You are of age. Get married. Right? And it's like a stigma to have a certain age, to arrive like the age of 25, 30, 35, 40, and you are not married. It's a stigma in the society. They look down upon you. They begin to question your character. They begin to question the type of person that you are. All right. But we know that not everyone should get married. There are certain categories of people that should not get married. Jesus Christ stated 3 categories. But you see, we have certain conditions that people put themselves in, or certain mindsets that make it impossible to have a successful marriage. Marriage is not for you if you fall in the following categories that I'm going to mention. 1, if you do not have time for marriage, marriage is not for you. If you have certain other preoccupations that are more important than marriage, then marriage is not for you. We have people who are preoccupied with certain overarching visions. Their purpose of life, their life purpose is so weighty on them. It weighs on them so much that they are so consumed by it, and they have no time for any other thing else. Such people should not get married. Jesus Christ didn't get married just because of that. Of course, his marriage, if he had gotten married, it would have been a disaster, because only his children would have claimed to be Christians. And he wouldn't have been able to achieve his purpose of coming to the earth. So he didn't get married because he had this overarching purpose of saving humanity, dying and saving humanity. Paul didn't get married, and as an apostle, he was able to go from one land to another, from one country to another, just kept going. There was no trailer behind him, no heavy trailer that he had to carry. And as an apostle, I understand very well why Paul chose not to get married. Sometimes you get to a place where, if you have the calling of an apostle, you're going, you're planting churches, you are breaking fallow grounds, and just the Holy Spirit is leading you from place to place, and then you have to stop and come home because the problem in the family, that the children have problem, you have to take care of the education of the children, and you realize that you just wish that you were free, just to keep going from place to place. In that case, don't get married. Get married to your preoccupation. Get married to your vision. Get married to your business. Your business is more important to you than marriage. Get married to your business. Don't go and take someone's son or someone's daughter and just waste their lives. So, category number 1, if you do not have time for marriage, don't get married. Category number 2, if you can't share your material goods, the things that you possess, you don't have that desire to share with anyone, don't get married. There are some people who are so selfish that they can't even share a piece of pie. They can't share pizza with someone. They can't share anything with anybody. They are so selfish. Don't get married. Have it all for yourself. Because marriage has to do with love and sharing. Marriage has to do with love and sharing. Love is giving who I am, all that I am, and all that I have for the good, for the utmost good of somebody else. So in this case, in marriage, love in marriage is giving all that I am and all that I have for the good of my wife. That's what marriage is. If you're not ready to share, one, your material goods. Number two, your private space. When I talk about private space, I would develop it, further as we go on. There is a certain space around a human being that you don't allow someone to come in. For instance, if you were there and you found somebody, a stranger that you didn't know, you saw that stranger walking towards you, and they kept coming and coming closer and closer. There is a certain space that person will reach where you automatically begin to walk back. You begin to back up, back out. You begin to walk back because that person has entered your personal or your private space. We all have a private space where only intimate people that we have intimacy with, they can enter that space. All right? So if you're not ready to share your personal private space, don't get married. Also, if you're not ready to share your body, your soul, and your mind, which is your spirit, then don't get married. All right? You can keep it all to yourself. Just keep yourself alone. Because marriage has to do with love and sharing. Love is giving. Again, love is giving all that you are and all that you have for the ultimate good of the one we love, of another person. All right? So if you are selfish and you can't share anything, you're not ready to share with anybody, please just take it all. Have it all. Don't go and take somebody's daughter or somebody's son and just waste their time. Next, if you just want a woman to do your house chores for you, don't get married. What you need is not a wife. You need a house help, a maid, a houseboy. In my marriage counseling, I've done a lot of marriage counseling in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America. And because of my studies in family life and law and gender studies, I've developed a tool, a marriage tool, where I'm able to generate, compatibility graphs and other things to find out if two people who want to get married are compatible or not. And I also have questionnaire to find out the compatibility. You fill the questionnaire, I'll plot them on a graph, and I'll let you know whether you are compatible or not. One of the first things I do to people who want to get married is I let them answer 5 questions. Tell me why you want to get married. And I can assure you that the answers are similar. Wherever you go, the answers are similar. Even though they are not always the same, they are similar. The men always go, yeah, first, I'm of age, so I need to get married. Number 2, I need someone to prepare food, to take care of the house, to do the household chores. So I need a wife. Number 3, I need children. That's how the men, always, those are the tendencies of men. Now the women are somewhat a bit different. Okay, I am of age, I need to get married, I want to have children, I need to get married. And then with women, the next point is I want someone to protect me. I want a man to protect me. And I want someone to take care of me, especially in Africa. I want someone to take care of me. Now listen, if you are a man and you are looking for a woman, someone to do your household chores, your household work, like cleaning, cooking, washing, ironing, you don't need a wife. You need a house help. You need a maid, right? So go and hire a maid, employ a maid, one maid and one houseboy to do those things for you. You don't need a wife, because a wife is more than that. If you're a woman and your purpose of wanting to get married is, oh, I want someone to take care of me, because you don't have a job, you have no training, and you're just waiting for someone to be a father, to buy food for you. And I want someone to protect me from danger. Then what I'll say is, you don't need a husband. You need to go and look for a benevolent bodyguard, a wealthy, benevolent bodyguard who will provide you with those needs. Marriage is more than just a man to take care of you and protect you. Right. Next, if you don't like coitus, and by coitus is a professional word that we use, coitus just means sex. If you don't like to have sex, don't get married. I've had to counsel a couple long time ago in Kumasi, Ghana. The lady didn't want to have sex, but she got married. And the young man was having problems. They were having problems, and they were not, I was not the pastor of the church, but the pastor of the church was a friend. He had to call me in to counsel this couple. The lady didn't want to have sex. I sat down with them separately, and then I listened to them. The lady felt that sex was nasty, it was dirty for her. Why did you go to have sex? Why did you want to get married? Why did you get married? I had to take my time, and a long time with this couple, for them to understand what marriage really is, and especially for the woman to understand that if you didn't want to have sex, if you don't like sex, then don't get married. If you have all kinds of ideas about sex, some people think that sex is sin. If sex is sin, you need counseling. If you think sex is dirty, you need counseling, right? Because you go with that attitude, you're just going to disturb a young man for nothing, right? So if you don't like coitus, don't get married. Or you need to get counseling before you get married. Now, if all that you need is coitus, is sex, then go and buy a sex machine. Today we have sex machines. Because a wife or a husband is not a sex machine. He's not there just for sex. She's not there just for sex. If you want to get married to a woman just because of sex, you don't need a wife. You need a sex machine. Go and buy a good sex machine. You can have as much sex as you want, because a spouse, and a wife or a husband is not a sex machine. All right? Now, if you are contemplating to get married and you are in any of these categories, I'll say stop and seek counseling. Seek counseling. You see, good marriages, successful marriages don't just happen. They are built. That's why the title of this series is Building a Successful Marriage. marriages don't just happen. Good marriages don't just happen. Some people think that I want a good man to get married to him. I want a good woman. So they are looking, oh, let me go to a church where I can find a good Christian. And by good Christian, they mean somebody who will be able to satisfy all their desires because they are Christians, because they will not fight with them. They'll say yes to whatever they want. No. Marriage has to be built. You have to construct. If you want a good marriage, you have to construct it the way we construct a building. Good and successful marriages don't just happen. They are made. There is the role of God in marriage or in a good marriage, but there's also the role of the couple. It's like a flower. You can grow a flower, but before the flower will grow, you need to keep watering it. And when it begins to grow, you need to trim it for it to look beautiful. Right? So, successful marriages are constructed. Marriage is also learned, especially when we talk of Christian marriage. Christian marriage is learned. Unfortunately, we are not taught marriage because most of the people who are supposed to be teaching us marriage don't have good marriages themselves. Many men of God, many pastors and, women of God are divorced. They are living in fornication. They can't give you the right counsel of marriage. Either they don't have successful marriages, they don't know how to build a successful marriage themselves, so you can't give what you don't have. If the pastor himself doesn't have a successful marriage, if the pastor himself does not live at peace with the wife, if the pastor himself is cheating the wife, or the female pastor is cheating on the husband, how can he teach another person to build a successful marriage? All right, so the people who are supposed to counsel us, to give us good counseling, most of them also are having problems. Because they themselves were not taught, they were not counseled. So today, a lot of people go into marriage without counseling because they just meet at the bus stop. They meet at the nightclub. They meet on the streets. And then the first thing is they begin to have sex. And then later on, they decide to go and get married. Now, if that's the way you build your marriage, don't expect that marriage to succeed. Don't expect to have a good marriage. You're just having a sex partner. That is not marriage. For true marriage to occur, there need to be knowledge of one another. You need to know one another. And know that the person that I want to get married to really is someone that should get married. Someone that needs a wife. Not a sex machine. Not a maid. Not, someone just to bear the children for him. Be a child, a child bearer. Or to someone to impregnate and give a child for them. I want to get married because I want children. Okay. Today we have artificial insemination, where you can, or ex vitro insemination, where you can, go and buy a sperm and buy an egg, and you can have a child. But if you want to get married, marriage is not just for children. It's not just for giving birth to children. Giving birth to children is part of it. But marriage is not just for giving birth. In our next video, I'm going to give the godly reasons for marriage. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 godly reasons for marriage. But today, all that I'm trying to do is to let you know who should not get married. All these categories that I've mentioned are in marriage. Maybe you find yourself in this category and you're already married. You don't like sex, but you have a husband. You don't like sex, but you have a wife. You are selfish. You can't share anything, but you have a wife. You have a husband. You cannot share your space. You cannot, let someone come close to you, and yet you are married. There was a lady that we were praying for in New Jersey. She was past 35 years, going to 40, and she was living a kind of chaste life. She wasn't having boyfriends up and down, and we're all praying for her. She was, a good church member, and every pastor really wanted her to get married. I went to visit this lady, and she had a 2-bedroom flat, 2-bedroom apartment, well furnished. Everything was in order. And this lady, if you took a chair cover or one of the couches, the covering that she hung on the couches, you displace one, put one somewhere, she'll rebuke you. Take it and put it exactly as it was. She didn't want anything in the living room to be displaced. She wanted to keep everything exactly as she wanted them. And I said, my dear, you have not created space for a husband. He said, how is that? I'm ready. Can't you see that the house is ready? I've got everything ready. If I have a husband today, if I get someone and we get married today, the person doesn't need to go and rent a house. Already have a house, well furnished, everything is here. I said, I know. Your house is well furnished. But it's difficult for you to get a man who will come and fit into your rigorous, rigorous structures in your house. Men are not like women. Many men are not like women. Some men are like women, but many men are not like women. And you will not get a man that would be so meticulous as not to display something in the living room. If you be angry with the little displacement, the angle of the computer has shifted a bit. The angle of the TV has shifted a bit. The man took maybe a napkin and put it somewhere where it should not be, and you get angry. Then don't get married. Just keep your neat, beautiful home, because it will be hard for you to find a man who will fit into your bubble, who will fit into your structure. Someone who wants to get married must be ready to adjust. I'm talking about adjustment. You must adjust. Because the person that you're going to get married is not you. That person has been given birth to in a different home, brought up by different parents, has a different culture. And when I say culture, I'm talking about, language. I'm talking about education. I'm talking about socialization. I'm talking about everything from food, from even dances and rituals, rites of passage, and everything that forms the environment within which that person was born or raised. You see, so you were raised in a different environment. That person is also raised in a different environment. You are not the same. So if you are a man and you are looking for a woman who will come and fit in your rigorous structure, you will not find any. Unless you get, even your twin sister cannot fit into your structure. Because she has a different mindset. You may be twins, but your mindset and her mindset might not be the same. Let alone two people who were brought up in different places. Okay? So if you say, this is what I want, and that's what the lady must do, this is what I want, and that's what the man must do, then I'm afraid, don't get married. You'll not get anyone like that. Again, there are people who think like that. There are people who behave like that who are already married. And that's why you have all the problems in marriage. All the problems. As a marriage counselor, as I've told you, I've done marriage counseling in 4 continents. The problems are the same. Incompatibility, they're not compatible. They shouldn't have gotten marriage in the first place. Compatibility is very important. The Bible says in the book of, I think it's in Amos, can 2 people work together unless they agree? That is compatibility. I'll come to that. Compatibility. Are you compatible with the person you want to get married to? Take time. Slow down. And find out if you are compatible. Again, I have a tool, a scientific tool, with which I can help you to find out if that person is compatible or not. If you contact me, I will let you have, I'll just send you the questionnaire, both to you and the person you want to get married to. I'll send it to you by mail or by email. And then 2 of you will fill the forms independently, send it back to me. I'll plot it on a graph. And if you see the graph lines going this way, diverging, then you know you're not compatible. But if you see them going the same way, then you know that you're compatible. Also, the graph will show you at which points you are not compatible. If you are ready to work out those parts, you are ready to work out the point of disagreement, then of course, you can get married. But you see, who is teaching our youth? Who is counseling our youth? Who is guiding our youth? Even the traditional marriage counselors, the traditional pastors who counsel people before they get married. The counseling is very, very limited. Because the pastors themselves don't know. They don't have the knowledge of what goes into marriage. One of the most important things that every couple, every married couple people are already married and people are contemplating marriage should understand is what we call conflict management and resolution. There's something we call conflict potential. Conflict potential. And before 2 people get married, before a man and a woman get married, we must find out what are the possible or what are the conflict potentials. What are the things that are likely to cause conflict, to bring conflict in their relationship? The moment we identify these things, then we begin to work on them one by one. Again, in some years ago in New Jersey, there was a couple, a young man and a young woman who I counseled, premarital counseling. And I told them that I was going to give them 72 weeks of counseling. After that counseling, either they will separate or they'll get married, all depending on what happens during the counseling. So we began to talk, we're meeting, every Saturday we're meeting. At the end of the 72 weeks, 72 hours of counseling, not weeks, 72 hours of counseling, they realized that it's better we don't get married. Because since we started, the conflict has not diminished, even though I taught them conflict theory and the best ways to resolve conflict. Anytime they came, I'll ask them, so last week, what conflicts occurred between you? And what was the cause of the conflict? The guy will say what he thinks was the source of the conflict. The lady will say what she thinks. And then we'll try to resolve the conflict with the conflict theory that I taught them. They knew the conflict language and they knew the language of resolution and other things. All right. But I was expecting that the conflict would reduce. But I realized that none of them was ready to budge. Everybody wanted to insist on their rights. Everybody wanted to continue to live in their bubble. The woman expected the man to come all the way to her into her bubble. The woman, the man also expected the woman to come all the way into his bubble. It will not work. Maybe you are not married and you think that, or you're looking for a woman who will do everything that you want. You are living in a dreamland. Marriage doesn't happen that way. If you get married, it will not be a successful, happy marriage. You may be already married and you're sitting there, especially the men. You're looking for the woman to obey. That is to say, obey everything that you say. It must be your way or nothing. No. That woman that you got married to doesn't cease to have a personality. We call something personality. Her personality doesn't disappear. When a woman's personality doesn't disappear when you get married to a man. Neither does a man's personality disappear when she gets married to a woman. Right? So the two you need to discover each other's personality and find out your compatibility curve to know whether you're compatible, whether you should get married or not. But again, the problem we have is that we are in a hurry to have sex. The youth don't have time. That's why the divorce ratio is high. And women are crying, especially women are crying. Women are actually suffering. Here in the United States, it's a real problem. In Africa, it's worse. Women go through all kinds of problems. Not just women, men too go through all kinds of problems because they never learned. Nobody taught them what marriage really is. Nobody taught them what to expect. What are your expectations? One other thing I do to people before they get married is I ask you to write down your expectations. What do you expect from your future husband? What do you expect from your future wife? I normally ask them to write 10 expectations. 10 things that you expect from your future husband. And 10 things you expect from your future wife. I take the list and I look through and I see a lot of unreasonable expectations. What you're expecting from your future husband is not reasonable, but they don't know it's not reasonable. Look, I'm a man, and I've been married for, I'm in my 36th year of marriage. Like I told you in my introduction, I have 3 children. They are all adults. They are all independent now, and I believe, and I can tell you that I have a successful marriage. But it didn't just occur. It had to be worked out. It had to be built. God has blessed me with a successful, happy marriage. But it had to take working and working and working, mountains and valleys, tears and laughter to build that successful marriage. That's why I can counsel you. Apart from, again, my studies in law, in gender, and in family studies, and in theology and Bible studies and counseling, all these things put together, my experience in marriage gives me that confidence to help you, to coach you. If your intention is to have a happy marriage, your intention to have a successful marriage, I will invite you not to miss any of my series on building a successful marriage. What did I say today? Today I've said that marriage is not for everyone. Don't let your parents push you into marriage. Don't let the society push you into marriage when you know that marriage is not for you. I know many people will get shocked because all that we know is that everyone should get married. No. Jesus Christ himself in Matthew chapter 19 verse 12 said, not everyone is going to get married. Besides, the ratio of men to women today is 98 to 100. 100 men to 98 women. So there are 2% of the population of the world. 2% of the population of women will not get husbands. They will not get husbands. Even if they wanted to marry, they're not going to get husbands. So those who are not supposed to be married, stay out of marriage. And let the women who, are supposed to be married, let them marry. Okay? So it's important. Let's understand again. Even if all women wanted to get married, if all women were ready to be married, 2% of 8 billion, that's a lot. 2% of 8 billion, that's a lot of women will not get husbands. You not get men. Because our society is a monogamous society. Means that just one partner. Just one partner. Christianity has imposed, one wife. One man, one wife. Muslims, okay, they can marry a lot. The traditional people can marry a lot. Maybe they can balance the equation. But there are women, a lot of women in the churches crying for husbands, praying and fasting, and they are doing all-night meetings and fasting for husbands, and they are just not there. All right? But let us realize that not everyone should get married. If you fall in any of the categories that I mentioned, one, you cannot share anything, you are selfish, you cannot give, you don't want people close to, people coming into your personal space, your private space, you cannot share your body, you cannot share your mind, your thoughts, you cannot share your emotions with somebody else. Marriage is not for you. If you can't share your wealth, if you can't give, marriage is not for you. Don't go and take somebody's son or somebody's daughter and torture them. If you don't like sex, marriage is not for you. Go and become a monk or a nun, right? If sex is the only reason that you want to get married, no, you don't need to get married. Go and buy a sex machine. If you need marriage, you need to get a wife. You need to get married just for that woman to do your house chores. You don't need a wife. You need a housemaid or a houseboy. Right? If you are a woman and you need marriage just because of protection, I have to have a man to protect me. You need a bodyguard. Right? You don't need a husband. So listen to this tape and ask yourself, am I in any of these categories? Am I in any of these categories? If you find yourself in any of these categories, if you are not yet married, you need to stop and seek counseling before you get married. If you are already married and you find yourself that you are in any of such categories, you already realize that there's conflict. There's too much conflict in your home. There's no peace. You want to run out of the marriage. You also need counseling. You need a learned person, somebody who has a successful marriage themselves. They are living happily with their wives and children. 2, somebody who has knowledge, not just of the Bible. He has knowledge about social issues. He has knowledge about, relationship. He has knowledge about basic gender and family relationships. All right? He has knowledge about, social power relations. They will be able to help you. Right? So keep watching this video. In my next video, I'm going to give you the reasons that God instituted marriage. I'm going to give you important purposes of marriage. What's God's purpose of marriage? Today, what I did is to let you know who marriage is not for. What marriage is not for. In my next video, I'll let you know what marriage is for. Now, if you love what you hear, I want to ask you, subscribe to my video, subscribe to this channel, pass it on to somebody else, and watch out. Once you've subscribed, when I do a new teaching, you'll be notified. So subscribe so that you will not miss any video. Next channel, we'll talk about the purpose of God for creating marriage. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.